Welcome back. This is Romid Minds. Before we went on the break, we're talking about Nigeria's poverty state and how we can take this nation from a state of poverty to a state of abundance. Thank you so much to my last guest for coming through. Right now, I want to talk about the food crisis in the nation. My last guest made a statement. She said that, oh, sardine is now 900 naira in the market. So literally, instead of flaunting wads of cash to your neighbors to show them you're rich, you can just show them your pack of sardines, and they will definitely know that you're rich. It's really saddening because in a country that is blessed with a lot of land mass, we should be producing more than enough food for ourselves, and not just for ourselves, to also export to other nations. Joining me today to discuss ending hunger and making food available for all is the founder of A Father Boy, Mr. Toby Fletcher. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Also joining me via Zoom is an agriculturist and development consultant, Shola Kolawale. Hello, sir.
Thank you for having me once again.
Thank you so much for joining us. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to start with you, Shola.
Yeah.
Why are we here with the current food shortages in the country? Farmers are producing food. Sometimes the food don't get to the destination. Sometimes the food gets spoiled. What exactly is the problem? Why are we having an incremental hike in the prices of foodstuffs?
Yeah, thank you very much. Why we are here is not what we can actually all, say something about. But fundamentally, over the years, we've not done well in terms of investment in agriculture. And when I say that with all sense of responsibility, given the fact that if you look at our agricultural budget in the last 10 years, we've not been able to meet up with the mark as agreed upon by the African Union leaders at Maputo and then Malabo. When we have conversations like this, we refer to the Malabo agreement that we should make 10% of our budget, at least 10% of our budget available for agriculture. Over the years, we've not been able to do that. And even right now, we are below the 5% in terms of budget to agriculture. Now, but that aside, over the last few years also, we've seen how insecurity has largely affected agricultural production, and insecurity from two major perspectives, from the perspective of insurgency, and then the aspect of the farmer herders clashes that we have all across agrarian communities, in particular in the country. So no doubt about that. We've had the challenge of insufficient budget to that sector, the aspect of insecurity, and then we should not also discountenance the debilitating effect of climate change, which has also resulted in poor food production that has affected our system, our food production system heavily. And so when you see these spikes and this instability in the food production system, these are direct factors that are responsible for what we are going through right now. So it is not difficult to actually place a mark on the major things that are causing the inflation in prices of food, and even in some areas, scarcity. And then even across some belts now, we have the challenges of, infrastructure to bring food out of those regions is becoming difficult as a result of collapse of the road system.
Okay, so we'll talk more about those challenges. Mr. Tobin, one of the complaints most farmers have is multiple taxation across all levels of the government. So you pay tax, you have to pay taxes, federal government, state government, even the local governments also tax those food items. Do you think it's a major reason why we've seen this hike?
Oh, well, is one of the reasons actually. Yeah, you just mentioned three taxes. There are still a lot of there's omonile, there's a lot of things people go through on the ground, and everything that all those things would reflect on the food. They don't want to waste, they don't want to lose money too. So everything still boils down on they sum it all up and add it to the basket of tomato and all that. And there's no body that regulates prices. You go to the market today and they are telling you a basket of tomato is 18,000. You go tomorrow, you see it for 21,000, and you can't find any tangible reason for that. They can tell you there was fight on the way, Boko Haram, this, that, Now, the people just, they just know how to twist the stories and, just make things happen their own way. So, like I say, if you want to go into any business in Nigeria, let's say you want to be a farmer, for example, it's very hard for you to get the A's and Z's of the process. Yeah. You can't just go somewhere and ask them, how do I start this? They will only put you through A to D. You start and you find out that something is coming up. Who is this one? What's happening here? And all that, And those are the things killing the farming business, really.
Okay, so now I'm going to refer to a statement by the president, President Muhammadu Buhari. He blamed this hike and the scarcity of food on the farmers or the people that hoard these items. So can you throw more lights into this?
You see, it's possible. There's a big possibility on it, but that's not entirely what the problem is. And, aside from the hoarding of foods, our palate has been adjusted a lot to what we import, the foreign food. For example, ofada rice. A lot of Nigerians don't even eat ofada rice. They prefer basmati rice. And when the borders were shut, it was very hard for them to adjust their palates to our local rice. And, talking about the hoarding that you just mentioned, these farmers, they plant, they harvest, the transportation, a lot of these places that a lot of these farmers are where the land mass is, a lot is going on there. There's insurgency, there's, kidnapping, there's a lot. So these guys are even doing all this with their life in their mouth. They're just trying to be strategic about it. So it's not entirely true to me that is the hoarding, is the middleman, like they would say. It's just the whole process, infrastructure. I know, sometimes you buy tomatoes, you buy perishables from the market. They are looking fantastic in the market. Just within the market and your house, that's like 30 minutes, the tomatoes would have gotten rotten. I don't know how that happens. And, you just look at all that, you know that is the fertilizer or how it's been planted and all that. So, a lot of things are supposed to be done and go into these things, basically, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question right after I reach out to Shola right now. Okay. But yeah, let's just hold that thought because you made a statement about how Nigerians find it hard to adjust their palates. So they prefer imported foods as opposed to the ones that are locally produced. So just hold on to that. Mr. Shola? So, okay. I think I'll just follow up with you, pending when we reach Shola. Are you saying that the locally made food is much more cheaper? Because even ofada rice is still expensive.
Yeah. Okay, so now the attention has been drawn to our locally made food. When the borders were shut, we had to make do of what we have. And, a lot of attention has not been put on these things. And, like I say, rice farmers, for example, these guys grow rice. A lot of them do the destoning with their hands. You can't cater for a country of 300 million people and still do things practically traditionally. There's a lot of mechanization that goes into these things. And if we don't pump money and we don't put money into these things, we're still just going to gallivant and make the meals available just to the little community that we're planting. So, there's a lot of attention has to be drawn and has to go into this thing so that, we can do more. You can't compare ofada rice, for example, to basmati rice or to the imported rice. Basmati rice that you're eating, apart from the nutritional values, the imported rice will be first harvested, stored, rebagged, transported from the country. It takes some rice. It takes a minimum of 3-4 years for them to get to Nigeria. And you can imagine, that means you're just filling your tummy. Those things are even dangerous to the health. So, if we can pay attention on what we have and develop these things, make these things global, make it stand, make it stay, make us really traditional, let us celebrate what we have, I think we'll do better as a people.
And I think this government is actually investing more in agriculture.
They're doing fantastic.
They have, because I think agriculture contributed about 22% to the GDP.
Yeah.
As opposed to the
that's
lower
the first time
percentages.
that's happening.
So it hits a level that it hasn't been in years.
Yeah, yes. Right.
Shola, so
tell
us, how can we consolidate on the current efforts of this government in boosting agriculture?
Yeah, if you look at what the government have been able to do, they've done more on the side of interventions in the sector, especially using the CBN to trigger production in specific, regarding specific commodities. We have the Anchor Bora programs that covers maize production, rice, and sorghum. We've also seen some other interventions to the big boys in the sector, who are millers and the likes. But I think one other area where we need to really work on is to have a formidable extension system that reaches out to smallholders who produce almost about 90% of the food that we consume locally. And I am saying that from the height of the knowledge of the fact that we are not really doing much to get these people to produce more and then, feed it into the system. Yes, government interventions, but we need to have structures beyond interventions that will make food production sustainable. Because we are going into an era where we really need to begin to think of climate-smart agriculture. Don't forget, I mentioned earlier that climate change is also going to bite hard. It's already biting hard, and is also responsible for some of the challenges we are seeing in our production pattern. It will affect rainfall. It will affect relative humidity in some areas. It would come in form of pest infestation and pre- and post-harvest losses in some locations. So what I'm saying in essence is that government must begin to rev up its extension service system in such a way that we are able to quickly mitigate challenges that we'll begin to see as we go further. Yeah. Now, if you observe very well, you will see that we are more dependent on rain to produce our food. Our agriculture is rain dependent. So we need to begin to move from that so that we can begin to have food production all year round and in a sustainable manner.
Okay, thank you very much. Toby, we've highlighted a lot of the issues that are causing these food shortages. And what do you think at this point in time, how can the government salvage this situation? Because you made mention that there's no regulatory body that is in charge of fixing these prices. So what do you think we need to do as a matter of urgency? Because it's not just about talking about these problems. We need to find solutions to it.
Okay, there's a lot of things to be done. A lot to be done actually. But you have to take one step at a time. A lot of these farmers, the ones producing, like he said, 80 to 90% of the meals that we eat are smaller farmers. The people that buy from beets and they bring them here to the south, and and they distribute everywhere. I think a lot of times the government needs to speak the languages these people understand. The funding that these people are supposed to get, most times doesn't even get to them, because these guys don't even speak English. They are just there doing that. All they do is farming. So I think there are ways that we can engage these people, and I'm sure they will produce more, because they don't even live where they farm. That's their life. That's the entirety of their life. So, I think we need to engage these people more, and, there has to be some sort of regulation. Sometimes you buy some tomatoes and you put it on the table. It can be there for 2 weeks and it's looking at you fine. But you buy sometimes and it's rotten. It rottens in less than 2 hours. It messes up. So, when there's a regulatory body that you just don't sell scat anyhow. When there's a body that buys from you and, checks the standard and tells you, oh, these things that you guys have done is not acceptable, can't go into the market, then a lot of these guys will start to sit up.
Quality control is very, very important.
Very, very key.
All right, I think we literally have just a few minutes to the end of the show, so I'm just going to connect with Shola so he would give us his final words and final thoughts on this matter.
Well, yesterday was World Food Day. And then it was an opportunity to remind ourselves again, as custodians of the food system, that we have to produce responsibly. And we also need to begin to look at how we produce our food. Toby just mentioned now about rotten tomatoes and the issue of quality control. It's a function of the decisions that we take in terms of even regulating the kinds of inputs that we make into agriculture. I'm talking about the fertilizer, herbicides, the pesticides we use, and the likes. You will observe that over the years, in the last few years in particular, we've had an influx of toxic agricultural chemicals coming into this country unregulated. The ECOWAS has a protocol for such chemicals, but Nigeria is not looking at that protocol. They are dumping a lot of terrible chemicals on our grounds, and it's going into our food system. So that is responsible for what Toby has just noticed. And then we need to address that even as we go forward in our attempt to be sufficient in food production and also to produce food sustainably on the long run.
Thank you so much, Shola. I appreciate this.
Yeah.
Toby, final words?
They say charity begins at home. We need to, I'm very local when it comes to Nigerian food. I've done that for the past 12 years. We need to continue to eat local, so that we can grow as a country. We need to promote our culture. We need to promote our food. It's very, very necessary. And that's it, basically. And I know that we'll get there. I tell people, ofada rice, to me, that's my best friend. And, if we continue to promote what we have, I know that the world would be nothing to us. Thank you.
Fantastic. So in 20 seconds, please just let us know, how can we make our locally produced food to go global? For example, the pasta in Italy. Everybody eats pasta. So how do we get ofada rice to be a global food?
So one of the things,
20 seconds.
Yeah, one of the things I've done in the past, I've done consecutively for like 3 years, is to celebrate ofada rice. There's a festival called the Ofada Rice Day Festival in partnership with the Lagos State government. The idea is to just celebrate ofada rice, because when it's an internet world now, the foreigners they like to explore. The Europeans like to see what's happening, and when we celebrate our food, when we celebrate our culture, people key into it and they want to hear we are the most populous black nation.
Sure.
We should dictate a lot of things in some regards, like our own rice and our own food should be known as should carry the African slogan wherever it's going, and that's what we've been doing for years, and that's what I'll continue to do.
Thank you so much, Toby, for coming. Thank you, Shola, for connecting with us. You've heard it from Toby. We need to leverage technology to make sure that our ofada rice, and not just ofada rice, all our locally made foods go global. Let's wear Nigeria. Let's eat Nigeria at all times. Robbie Mind continues after this break. Stay with us.
Don't just stand there teasing me. Now it's time to show.